Thanks for tuning in again, everybody. We're back with your favorite podcast, Luca's Tigers and Bronze. Oh my.
Luca Nation, welcome back to a new episode of Luca's Tigers and Bronze. Oh my. I'm so happy to be settled in and to be bringing you this episode from a new location where I feel comfortable, I feel settled, and I have an awesome topic that I think we're going to discuss today with Cage. And here's how it started. I don't know if you guys watched the Gary V, Mr. Presidente, Dave Portnoy live stream yesterday, but watching that, I had this thought, and I want to hear what Cage says. If there's one duo, one team, one movement that could resurrect baseball, it's the Barstool umbrella with Gary and A-Rod. My play today is going to be along those lines, but I want to have that discussion. So, under the Barstool umbrella, they have the Corp with A-Rod and Big Cat. We got Barstool, right? A huge network of sports media. And then we have Gary. We've been talking for a long time, Cage. You know, baseball's down. They don't know how to market. They really need to pick it up. You know, they have all these young stars, young talent, but they're not marketing them. They're not advertising. They're not promoting them. What do you think of that theory? You know, yesterday they were talking about Barstool getting into sports cards, Dave getting into sports cards. Is this just a pipe dream? Do you really think, do you see what I'm seeing here?
No, I mean, I think it's definitely a good idea, but I doubt that that's going to help baseball cards. I mean, I think it'll be good for sports cards in general. I think basketball is probably the way to do it. But, you know, baseball, listen, for baseball to become relevant to today's generation, they're going to have to change a whole bunch of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, and you're talking about drastic changes. Like, I wouldn't even be against if they decided to make every game 7 innings, and if the game was tied at the end of 7 innings, each team picks a player and have a home run derby. 10 pitches. Whoever hits the most home runs off those 10 pitches, that's the team that wins the game. Seriously, like they need to do something like that. Like the stuff that's exciting to young players. Like basketball got exciting with the 3-pointer and, you know, and they changed the game. I mean, they didn't change the rules of the game. They kind of did with penalties, but they changed the game itself. You know, when I was a kid and watched the game, it was an ugly game. It was almost football on a basketball court. It was a pounding game. You know, games would have scores in the 70s and the 80s, and it was go down the lane and get beat up and get fouled. And it was a slower game because they had a lot of whistles, a lot of stoppages, not a lot of scoring, not a lot of 3-point shooting. And the game has changed to where like you it's not physical anymore. It's almost a completely non-contact sport now. You know, everybody gets free reign. You get touched at all, and there's a foul call. It's much more high scoring. It's much more fast paced because of it. A lot less whistles, unless you're, you know, talking about James Harden. It's becoming
But
almost
Cage,
soccer. Go ahead.
So the one thing that happened to the NBA that led to this, well, two things, I guess, and they happened sort of simultaneously. You had a lot of stars or potential star power enter the league, and you had a change in commissioner. David Stern came in.
Yep.
Right? So I think baseball actually has those young stars: Tatis, Acuna, Soto, Gavin Lux, Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero down the road, right?
Yep.
I see A-Rod becoming the MLB commissioner in the next 12 to 24 months. Or
No way.
I see a commissioner coming in, replacing Manfred, that takes advice and suggestions from Barstool, VaynerMedia, Gary V, and the media conglomerate that they have created.
No. I mean, it's a great way of thinking about it, but that's not it. The commissioner has one responsibility, and that's to the curmudgeon owners to make money, and baseball is still making a ton of money. They still make more money than anyone. They still make money. I mean, obviously not with COVID, but they're still making a ton of money. They don't have the popularity of you know, the cards collecting, but there is no commissioner out there saying, you know what, baseball needs to grow the hobby. We need to grow baseball cards. They just make money. Look at the team value. Look at like the top value teams that are out there, right? You know, the Yankees, the Dodgers, you know, the Red Sox. A lot of the baseball teams are the highest valued commodity sports franchises out there. Not basketball teams. Some of the basketball teams and football teams are actually on the lower end of that, especially the small market teams. So remember what the job of the commissioner is. It's not to cater to Barstool and cater to you and me as sports cards enthusiasts. You know, success of a sport does not necessarily mean success of a sports card. Baseball's doing fine.
You think so?
Yeah,
I'm
I
not.
do.
I'm not suggesting that baseball needs to make a change for the sports card hobby to grow.
Hmm.
I'm suggesting baseball needs to make a change so that they stay relevant in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, but I don't know whether or not that's bringing in the bar stool and that type of stuff. I mean, they are right, so that they're always constantly tweaking it. And I think, believe it or not, we talked about how things like COVID are going to make changes in the world. How people work, you name it. It'll make changes all over the place. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the DH comes in full time. Maybe not this year, but maybe going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if that doubleheader, 7 inning doubleheader, becomes an actual thing. The extra innings rule with somebody starting on second base. Like, there are changes that were made because of the short season because of COVID, where these are things that they kind of worked. You know what I mean? And I can see that changing the game for the better. There is no fix. There's no, and bringing in A-Rod. First of all, the guy, he's on the fringe of baseball. I love A-Rod. I have one of his SP 93, 94 SP PSA 10 rookie cards. I invested in A-Rod. I think he's a great player. I think it's a good long-term deal, but he might not even get into the Hall of Fame because he's a cheater. He's one of those like polarizing figures. Half the league likes him, half the league doesn't. I don't know whether or not he's someone who you want to use as a consultant. For you and me, it makes sense, right? I mean, he's got his finger on the pulse, but he obviously didn't get the Mets ownership bid. There was some talk about him, being in the running for that. I don't think that the standard folks like him. Here's my
The
overall
standard
summary
folks, in my opinion, are dying off. If you
I
look
agree.
at the
So
owners,
you're
and I think people confuse Barstool and Gary because they know those names. In my opinion, those are the two best marketing agencies, marketing movements and communities in America right now.
So I agree with you. So baseball, you know what I'll compare it to, because I got to use hobby stuff. Baseball is the way the National was 3 years ago. Basketball is the way the National is going to be in the coming years. And Gary and Barstool are like the changers, right? They're the what brings the change to the hobby. People the baseball guys were the people who were there at the National. It used to be a baseball card show, right? It wasn't ever basketball or anything else. It was like I say this all the time. A bunch of old curmudgeon guys like myself sitting there with their binders of cards, saying buy the card, not the holder. Saying things like basketball is a fad, and saying things like baseball vintage is where it's at. And yet the hobby has really passed those guys by. I will tell you that the hobby really took off for me. More fun in the hobby, more day-to-day fun, more day-to-day trading and interaction with people, as well as probably more money making, was when a year and a half ago I looked at what was going on with this stuff and said, you know what, I have to move away from baseball. I have to move away from baseball and move into basketball and a little bit of football. And that's where the flow money was going. A little Pokemon, and I think you're right. Baseball needs to make some changes. I don't know whether. So it's funny, your question on Barstool. If you read like people post, "Hey, look, Barstool and Gary are talking." What I think of when I read the comments is, you remember our episode with Blake Jameson, the artist, who said about art, he says, you never want to be a down the middle person. You never want to be somebody that people don't have an opinion about, somebody that nobody hates and nobody loves. He says you want to be polarizing, right? Obviously, Barstool and Gary are polarizing, because if you read the comments to, people posted, I think 137 posted and posted some of their video and stuff. It's either, wow, these guys are going to take it to the next generation, or it's comments like, these guys are they're the worst thing for the hobby. They're going to kill the hobby. These guys are the worst. Look at this dynamic duo of people who are terrible. I happen to fall on these guys are great for the hobby. They'll bring more eyeballs to the hobby. And the stuff that you and I are talking about, where sports cards, the hobby itself could be the next fantasy sports, could be the next sports betting. A group like Barstool and Gary and VaynerMedia, they are the people to take it to the next level. It's their audience that you want, actually, with their buy-in to legitimacy of the hobby. So I think it's great. It's just the next line in the progression of stuff, right? Like when you see players posting their stuff, when you see, Giannis posting pictures of his collection, Tim Duncan recently, right? Somebody showed a picture of Tim Duncan with like a precious metal version of himself, right? If the players get into it, then I think, by the way, that's the chicken or the egg type of thing. Tell me what you think about that. The Barstool guys, they're with the sports guys. They have access to these sports guys, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they interview these sports guys.
Deion Sanders, which ironically, I'll give you guys a little preview as my play today. is in their network. He's doing
Yep.
a podcast under the Barstool umbrella, which is, I think Barstool is severely underrated. I think they're going to overtake ESPN, in my opinion. And I don't know if you remember this, guys, but Deion Sanders has a Yankee card as well, which is kind of
Yep.
cool. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, Cage.
No, but I mean, I don't know whether the sports guys will get into cards because of somebody like Barstool getting into it, or I don't know whether Barstool gets involved in the cards because they see the athletes getting into it. I don't know if it matters which one is which. I don't know what the origin story there is, but it is a cool thing. And what's better for your hobby than to see the players actually, investing in themselves and investing in their cards? I think that's one of the cooler things that's happened over the last, it used to be baseball. Pat Neshek was a relief pitcher who you saw who was he did autographs. He did autographs from other players. But other than that, you really never heard about like somebody buying their cards or flexing their own cards, or somebody like LeBron reading about the auction and saying, "Yeah, I got a few of those myself." You just never heard about that. That's cool.
What if I told you my play today was the 1989 Deion Sanders The Score PSA 10 card? What do you think about that play, Cage?
I like it. I'm an 89 score guy. I'm more of a Barry Sanders than a Deion Sanders, but I mean, he's got some real relevance. There have been some documentaries.
Which one of those
about him.
two? Which one of those two guys is? I can't stop thinking of this term Cage brought up. Which one of those two guys is more cardboard relevant?
Well, Barry Sanders is one of the greatest of all time. No one will really say that about Deion Sanders, but I think they'd be wrong. He was a two-way player, which has become more of a thing. You see Kyler doing it now. There probably will be more people doing that. But why Deion is cardboard relevant is he's still around. I mean, I was watching TV yesterday, and Ian goes, "Look, Deion Sanders just intercepted a pizza." And I'm like, "You know who Deion Sanders is?" He's like, "Yeah, that's him right there. He just intercepted the pizza." And I look up at the television, and there's Deion Sanders. I don't remember what it was for, Pizza Hut or whatever. And he's running down the street with a pizza box. I think it was for Subway. It was like, buy Subway. I think he's doing a commercial for Subway. So I mean, obviously he's still relevant, right? I mean, he's still in the social conscience.
First off, we need to get Ian clipped because he has some one-liners that are top notch, man.
No, I didn't even know he knew who that was. How does he know who Deion Sanders is? He's like, look, Deion Sanders just intercepted a pizza. I'm like, what? Yeah, and there it was.
My takeaway yesterday, from the live and Dave talking about sports cards, the hobby on CNN today, how people are looking at Bitcoin and sports cards as alternative asset classes. I could not be more bullish on the sports card hobby for the next 3 to 5 years. That's my big takeaway. And now I'm thinking which people, which players, which athletes that are getting into media are going to be relevant. And that's why I'm bringing you guys this play. I think it's an interesting play. And I also think there's a variety of Deion Sanders cards that you guys can buy. I mean, Cage, you know this better than I. When did he play for the Yankees and how long? And which card would you buy of Deion Sanders? Would you go with
He only played with the Yankees for a little while. I think he's got a cool 1990 Topps card that there's definitely millions of out there. It's a cool colored border on it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of his cards. No really cool one that comes to mind, like the Barry, like the Bo Jackson score one with the shoulder pads and stuff like that. They would have been cooler, like Deion ones. I think he's got a Provision one when he was on the Atlanta Falcons, which was a cool picture of him when he was with the Falcons team. It's like a drawing kind of card, Fleer Provisions it's called. But yeah, I mean, look, Deion's a cool play. I think your score football rookie is where you're going to want him. He was never really that good of a baseball player. He was decent, right? I mean, he was a decent player. He was a decent athlete, right? For a while, he was on both of the Atlanta teams, which was a cool thing. Right?
I brought you a Bo Jackson play last week. Not all my plays are modern basketball. I try to zig when they zag. And I think this is an interesting play because I was coming on to this episode and I wanted to bring you Tatis because I could not be more of a believer in Tatis as the future of baseball, man. This guy's got it all. I love players that have swag but also love the game, and I feel like he fits both of those categories. You see him; he's now in the Gatorade commercials. I just think Tatis is the future of MLB. I think he's going to be the next Mike Trout, so to speak. getting MVP after MVP, Gold Glove, and just a variety of accolades. But I've already brought you that play. Something. What's another unique play? Someone who's in culture, who's in zeitgeist, and I think the Deion Sanders play from 1989 is a really interesting play. So that's what I'm bringing for you guys today. Cage, unless you crushed it, you literally crushed it. You on your picks this last night. 8-3, 8-3-1.
Yeah, 8-3-1 because the Chargers. I picked Chargers -3, and they won by 3. So we got to call that
And
a push.
they were blowing them out all game.
Yep. Yeah, we got to
Unless you
call it a
want to
push.
cover anything else, like you want to hop into your play. Is there anything that's top of mind?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen. So I kind of like the Sanders play. I mean, the 89 tops traded football. So what's cool about him, right, is 89 tops traded football. That's one of those cards that Lefko held up as a card that he like. This is my card, this is my guy, and then it flew. He's an odd duck, the Deion one, because he's also in the 89 tops traded baseball set with the Yankee card. That's the same year that 89 tops traded is where you find Griffey's first tops card. 89 tops traded. So it's an overlooked card. And you could buy a PSA 10 in like the $40 range for his baseball rookie. Interesting play. It's an interesting way of playing it, and that's significantly less than what the football rookie is. And that would be a cool, like, side by side, like 89 tops traded football, 89 tops traded baseball cards next to each other. Falcons and the Yankees. I like it. I mean, and he definitely is relevant. So yeah, we went 8-3-1 yesterday. Football was nice to have a nice week like that. Hopefully, folks were on board. And I'm going into week 17, and my pick of the Dallas Cowboys winning the division is still alive. Five shots said he's. Go ahead. It was $10.
No. $10. You send a card if the Cowboys win, and I send a card if the Eagles win.
I don't remember that. We'll have to look it up.
All right, fine.
I thought it was $10.
All right, $10. That's easier.
I mean, listen, 5 shots and he's still alive. They hit him with 5 shots and he's still alive. The Cowboys. Oh, they're like the Godfather. They're like, when the Turk. That's a big line from Salazzo. It's we'll see. The Cowboys are not dead. They still need help. It'd be nice if they could control their own destiny. They still need help, right? They still need a Washington loss, right? Washington can still get in. Team without a name can still get in with a win, but we shall see. Nice collapse from the Eagles. No good.
How do GMs miss so bad on a guy like Haskins?
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, this is why I love having daily plays, right? That's why I love having daily episodes, because he literally just got cut. So here we are. We're gonna have this episode out tonight. He got cut by his team. I have to give certain owners and managers credit, right? So Steve Ross, the Miami Dolphins guy, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, he has a course that he gives for NFL players. And I think anyone can do it, during the off season, where he allows players, a lot of Dolphins players, obviously that's his team, but I'm pretty sure he opens it up to anybody else. But where he does kind of like a business class, and he has them come to New York, and they sit down and they meet, people in Steve Ross's organization, and they, they kind of like have I don't know, like, here's how you get into business. Here's some things you can do with your money kind of afterwards, after you're out of the league. I think there's enough people in sports where there should be more of that. You know what I mean? You have to remember, somebody like Haskins, how old is that kid? 21? 22 years old, right? So with all the people taking a slice of his pie, with the agents and the lawyers and the accountants and all that stuff out there, with the one and dones and all the other fun stuff that the NFL does, they do a good job of, with the draft and whatnot. How many people do we have out there that are the Dwayne Haskins and the Johnny Manziels and these guys? Now, I'm not saying he didn't do good with his money, right? I'm sure maybe he has some, maybe he does. I have no idea. But you almost think like these teams should have kind of like I don't want to call it a chaperone, but they should have sort of like an intro to the NFL type of thing. They do it with safety classes Right, if you're gonna go on a construction site, they bring a guy out. You got to take an OSHA training. Here's a video of a guy who got hurt. Here's a video of what happened. Here's a video of why you got to take it seriously. Right? You know, there have to be people who were in the league and lost everything. They were in the league and didn't do the right things. There's got to be dozens of them. The league should literally hire them. That'll help them out too, ex players, you name it, and have them come in. Rookies should go through, and maybe they do. I don't know. I've never in the NFL, but you know, it seems to me that you're expecting too much out of these kids. You're 21 years old. Here you go, sign a contract, have a couple $1 million, and
Mm-hmm.
behave,
Yep.
wear a mask, don't go party, don't go to a club, and you add the extra, add the extra fun of this year with COVID and whatnot, and the extra restrictions that are being placed on these guys, and and I don't know whether or not ultimately at some point you're an adult, you're a professional, you're making this money, you have to be held accountable, and the team just did, and they caught him, and I'm sure he'll get another chance somewhere. He's young and talented enough, and it's a quarterback. There are so few people who are able to be a quarterback in the NFL. He'll get a second chance somewhere, and I hope he succeeds. I wish everybody success. But I think
Money magnifies who you are. I keep hearing that quote, and it's so interesting to think about because you're absolutely right, Cage. If I got that money at 21, I wasn't the same person I am at 30. I didn't have the trials and tribulations that I went through to learn from. I didn't have the positive habits. So it's a lot to expect of a 21-year-old, who may or may not have had a stable life at home, to have good habits, have good judgment when they've just been given a pile of cash, right?
Exactly right.
It's easy to us to sit behind the screen and to judge and be like, how can you do this or that? But, it's hard to judge someone if you've never walked in their shoes.
Listen, I got a question for you. If I'm allowed, we don't do this.
You never ask me anything. I wish.
So I got a question for you. Here's a question for you. Okay, are you nervous at all about the hobby? I go back to 2 years ago, and I remember Luca, and obviously the hobby's changed and money's changed and the world has changed. But I go back to Luca, and you were able to buy Luca's Prism base rookie card for $15, and you graded it, and they were selling for $65, $70, right? And I remember thinking to myself, geez, I spent $15 and I spent another $8 grading it, and I got I'm into this car for $23 and I can sell it now for $80. Of course I'm going to get rid of this thing. Of course I'm going to make my $50 and just keep doing it over and over again. And I did. I remember doing that. And you could buy Zion's card for $100 or $125. You could buy all these cards. I'm fast forwarding now, but you fast forward to now, and Luca's PSA 10 is a $2,000 card. A card that was $50, $60, $65. It's 30x in 2 years. All right. So I give you an A, B, or a C for where you see this going. A, we've gotten too far ahead of ourselves, and there's going to be a pullback in the hobby overall, not just in Lucas cards. I just use that as an example of a card that there's been crazy returns on. B, this is the new normal. That there are going to be guys who you can prospect on, and when they have a modicum of success and have some momentum and they do well and you pick the right guy, then 10x, 15x, 20x, and hell, even 30x returns are something that are just the new normal for our hobby. Or option C, something in between. Give it So C. Talk to me.
But I think we often confuse recency bias with the hobby. So just modern basketball is just a small subset of the hobby. And because it's so in our face and prevalent, we think that is the entire hobby. But why I pick C and why I think it's something in between is there are a ton of other investments in the hobby, excluding modern basketball. I think the people that go for modern basketball, and I'm not worried about the hobby, I'm worried about the gamblers. Am I putting you to sleep?
No.
Kind of.
A little bit.
I'm not worried about the hobby. I'm worried about the gamblers in the hobby. I'm worried about the people overextending themselves, searching for those 10, 15x returns, because that reminds me of the people that used to bet on parlays and parlay 7 teams. They hit it one time. They remember hitting it for 6K, and they keep trying to do it, and they actually lose 46K. So I'm not scared for the hobby. I'm scared for the gamblers that are doing that within the hobby. But modern basketball, though a part of the hobby, is just that. It's just a part of the hobby, Cage. It's the part of the hobby where people can gamble. Modern football also played that role, but actually I don't think it played that role to the same extent. Baseball, I think it's actually some very conservative people buy into baseball. Vintage, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, comics. It's very important to realize, in my opinion, that modern basketball is the gambler's realm. So I'm worried for the people, not for the hobby. I'm worried for the people that are buying into John Morant Prism Silvers for $6,000-$7,000. Those people worry me. That's a lot of money. But for the hobby overall, no, because I think the smart investors, the hedge fund investors, the private equity guys, the guys with some serious liquidity, they may own $50,000 in those modern basketball, but they'll more than likely also own autographs. They'll more than likely own scarce cards. They're more than likely going to own some vintage basketball, baseball, and football cards as well. And they're not worried about Ja going down because they've got a whole variety of cards. So that's how I see it.
When Ja was a $2,500, $3,000 card, I thought to myself, wow, that's so high. I got to get out of it. And now it's double. So maybe I'm just missing the boat on these things. Tell me, I see Trey Silver going yesterday for as high as $37.99 on eBay. Or I remember last week, a couple weeks before the season, it was $2,000. All you could buy, $2,000. Then in the lead up to the season, it was $2,500. I saw it get as high as $3,000. Then it started to come down, as the season approached. A couple days before the season, $2,600, $2,700, $2,800, and now he's had 2 great games. He's averaging 40 points a game after 2 games, and it's well up over $3,000. I've had offers. I have one up on eBay. I've had offers as high as $3,500 for a Trey Silver. I didn't take it. I'm considering taking it, but I didn't take it, and here's why. If Luka's going to be 10, is Trey cheap at $3,500? If Luka's 9 right now, is Trey cheap at $3,500?
No, not at all. Luka was 8,000. Luka's gone up like 10, 15% recently, where Ja and Trey have gone up 60, 70, 75% recently.
Right. Luka's team looks bad. Luka's team doesn't look good. Luka looks fine. He doesn't look Trey looks fantastic.
It's been 3 games. It hasn't. If you equate this, it's literally been 1 NFL game. It's been less. It's been 3/4 of 1 NFL game. Just to contextualize that, 3 games are nothing.
So there's your important lesson, right, guys? There's your important lesson, the overreaction. We want to come back to that, right? Don't get nuts. Don't get crazy. Don't get nuts on the downside or on the positive side, right? It's 3 games. If anybody out there wants to bet that the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to go undefeated this season, please DM me because I'll take that bet. I don't think the Cavs are going to go undefeated. They're undefeated right now. I don't think the Magic are going to be undefeated. They're undefeated right now.
Cage, in the beginning of COVID, or maybe towards the middle, there's a big thing about investing in stocks, Robinhood. People were at home. They were getting stimulus. They were getting money.
Yep.
Outside the hobby, people were investing. And there was a stock called NIO, N-I-O. And it was like an 86-cent stock. And then there was a lot of news on Twitter talking about how this is a good company. This is an electric car company out of China. They're expanding. They got all these deals. News, right? Mm-hmm. Really, all that happens, if you really simplify, when Trey scores 40 points, that's a news article. That's no different than NIO expanding a new factory, right? You could compare those 2.
Yep.
Trey had a really good performance, so I think he's going to – okay. That stock went from 80 to $3 back down to $1.25 once all the hype and steam left. But there's a big but. That doesn't mean that all stocks fell. That means that one was just inflated. That one was where all the gamblers, all the speculators looked at. And it was a series of those stocks. That's what I see as modern NBA right now. That's where all the gamblers and speculators are attracted to because they know they can deposit $100 and leave with $1,000 in 2 days. That's exciting to people. But that doesn't affect the entire hobby because there's also people who are holding a Michael Jordan Fleer PSA 10 and they know that's the real card. That's a real iconic artwork.
Guys, be careful. This is the deal, right? Be careful with what's going on. Be careful with, overreaction. Be careful with what people are putting out there on their pages and trying to sell stuff. How many people posted how great it was that Kevin Durant came back and he's the greatest player ever, and wait till he puts up 50 points in his Nets return and sell because everybody was holding Kevin Durant cards and they finally had the ability to unload some of them. I think more Kevin Durant cards were sold the first day of the NBA season than any other card. More than LeBron, more than Zion, more than Luka.
But that also means that more Kevin Durant cards were bought.
How many people posted pictures on their Instagram of him missing the game-tying shot with 3 seconds left against the Hornets last night? None. Nobody out there talking about reality. Everybody's out there talking about hot air. Just be careful. Just be careful what's going on, right? And try to find people who are going to tell it to you like it is, right? Um, because there's a lot of people out there who are weaving a tale for you because it helps their cards.
Okay,
Um,
you asked
yep,
me this question on my birthday, and I sometimes like for your Trey Young, for example, just use
yep.
that, right? Because Manny had a question, and he was, he's in profit for some cards, and I resonate, I empathize with this post. He's struggling to make the decision: hold, sell, take his profit.
Yep.
That Trey Young, $3,500, right?
Yep.
Let's say you're into that card for 1,500, and you could take $2,000 profit, almost over 100% profit on it.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with taking 100% profit and just sitting on the sidelines and watching for a little while. There's
Yep.
literally nothing wrong with that because more opportunities, more buying opportunities are going to come. And not only that, you're going to have the liquidity and the capital to make it happen. And you're going to have objectivity to know and see the market from a different angle. You don't always have to be invested. You can be partially invested, but you don't always have to be completely 100% all in. You could take your profits, sit from the sideline, watch, observe, and learn. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's a lot of maturity comes with that.
I agree. So I also, by the way, I don't think that John Moran prices. I know it's only been 2 games. That doesn't mean that he's going to come down. He may be very good this year, guys. I mean, listen, I've seen a lot of people making fun of buy what you love. If you're a Morant guy, buy your John Morant cards. No, I'd be nervous about buying them after an explosion after just 2 games. But your point is well taken, right? I mean, when a card flies like that, chances are it's not going to fly like that again tomorrow.
I'd watch
You know?
Morant. Morant is
Uh-huh.
going to be last year's Trae Young. Morant is
Okay.
phenomenal, but the Grizzlies aren't that good. They've Grayson Allen starting. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're limited, and Ja's going
Well,
to have an amazing year. But you remember Trae Young last year?
the more important part of it is right now those 2 games he played. Clark coming off an injury, and he's not fully himself yet, and Jaren Jackson Jr. is not in there. So not only is the team not that good, but even the players that they do have are not in there. Somebody has to score. So Morant's numbers are probably going to regress to the mean. I'm not saying he's not great. He may average 30 points. He may be this year's Trey, but he's there are players who are missing from that lineup, and those people are going to have to eat too when they get back and when they're healthy.
Can,
So
can I
can I
add a
switch?
little?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, you can switch gears, but let me just add this one thing that I find it so fascinating that people don't realize this, that players get tired. Like fatigue is real.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you have to carry the entire team on your back. Like, did you watch or follow that Hawks Grizz game?
Yes,
Like the
I watched
biggest
it.
thing for Trae Young isn't necessarily that he has better players around him. It's that he has better players around him so he could stand and not always have the ball in his hands and have to create something. That's
Right,
incredibly
he could turn
difficult.
it on when he has to.
Yeah, and that matters because you got to understand all of these guys are incredible. These are the best 300 players in the entire world. As much as you think that there's a huge difference between Tatum and Durant, the difference is so minuscule, I can't even express it. It's less than 0.0001%. These are the best players in the world. But these other factors play into and rest, fatigue, usage, how much time you have to go and create for your team, that plays itself out over a really long season. And you guys need to realize NBA seasons are very long, very long. If you compare it to college plays 30 games. They play 2 games a week. These guys play
Yep.
4 games a week. This is so it's they're going to wear down over the season. You're going to see injuries. You're just going to see investor fatigue too. I don't know if that's a term or anything, but like investor fatigue happens, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, you could switch gears, but that's my take on it. I
I like
definitely
it.
think, yeah,
Listen, I do. I definitely like it. And listen, it's an interesting thing, right? Because half of me likes to think, wow, these cars have gotten so expensive. I got to sell some. But the other half of me is like, I really do believe, and I bring this up for a reason. I bring it up because you have just mentioned Gary and Barstool, and we talked about the athletes themselves, spending their money on their cards, right? So are we in the beginning? I kind of think we are. I mean, I think that the money that's coming in is going to look at a $5,000 Josh Silver and be like, "That's cheap. That's half a Luca. You know what I mean? Like and he's so young and he's got so much more of his career ahead of him. You know, I mean, like, and Luka's cheap at 10 and Luka's 15 now, and I mean, like, it's just I I look at cards and modern cards, right? You can go out and spend $50,000 on or let's say $70,000 on a PSA 6 Mickey Mantle 52 tops, like a Grail card, like or you spend the same amount of money on a Blue Ice Luka Prism out of 99 PSA 10. I mean, that's insane to me, but that's the market right now. And if people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on cards of these modern basketball guys, then then I think you can make an argument that the entire structure of pricing on this stuff is there is nothing that's too high. A silver tray at $3,000 is not that expensive. He's one of the faces of the game going forward. One of the young guys that everybody loves. It's just, to me, it's tough, but I have to get in that mindset now because I am somebody. I had a bunch of Trey Silvers and I sold some of them. I sold them at 2,200, 2,300 before the season, thinking, "Wow, I got to take advantage of this." And look, now they're 50% more than that a week or two later. It's just it's crazy because I thought to myself, wow, they went up. Let me get out of these now.
I think differently. I think that if a Ja Silver is 6,000, I would rather have 3 Kobe rookies.
I don't know. That's a different class of card. It's a different class of card entirely because Kobe's not going out there and playing anymore, unfortunately.
I could buy a Kobe auto for that amount. I don't know. I don't agree. I think it's temporary.
Listen, I agree with you entirely. Somebody showed me a PSA 10 Mojo Ja Morant PSA 10, a Prism rookie. They said it's $30,000 for it. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just buy a PSA 10 Joe Montana rookie card instead? And people are just not looking at
Jordan that. PSA 9.
People don't look at it that way. They're, like I said, maybe they'll get both. But the modern basketball investment, it's its own animal. So and I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
I'll make a few predictions. Please. I'll say Ja Silver Prism will end the basketball year at about 3,000, 2,800. I'll say a Zion Prism Silver PSA 10 will end at 3,000, 3,500. Say a Trey Silver Prism PSA 10 will end at 35, 3,300. Luka will end at around 6, 7. I'm
gonna make that prediction. Real pullback on the Luka then.
Yeah, a little bit of a pullback. I don't think they're going to be that great this year, and that was insane, by the way. I thank you for actually, but dude, Paul George. I got to be honest with this. Like, think about it this way: this guy comes out and nonstop is telling us about his work ethic, how hard he's training. He's with his trainer. I'm going to bring a championship to this freaking organization, right? Your best player's out. One game he's out. How do you not step up? How do you allow that to happen? You are the biggest fraud and joke I have ever seen in sports. You're literally a joke. You come out here and you say, I'm going to bring a championship to the Clippers. And you come out and you get smashed by 50 in the first half?
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
Terrible. Get out of here, dude. You are a clown. You need to shut your mouth. Honestly, I don't even know if you should play.
You know what? I just got given that game off. I mean, Kawhi was out. I think they basically, they came 2-0, and they basically just took a day. People take games off. I think that team took that game off.
Everyone, they could absolutely take that game off. But how can you take that game off, Paul George, if you're as good as you think you are, if you make the promises you make, and this team just hit a game winner on you 3-4 months ago? How do you not come out there and take over? You're supposed to be an unbelievable defender and an unbelievable scorer. That was the most – any little bit of respect I had for Paul George, I lost it. That was unbelievable. That was unbelievable. Do you imagine a game where Shaq is injured and Kobe comes out and that happens?
Listen, so here's the difference between me and you. I never had any respect for Paul George. I never thought he was a great player anyway. And the fact that you just compared him to Kobe, he should write you a thank you note. So let's move it along.
I didn't compare him to Kobe.
You did.
Comparing the mentality.
Well, he doesn't have it. Come on, and it's a different player. It's a different world. It's a different game. I mean, Paul George is not that good. So that's it. He's not that good, and no one should ever really expect him to be that good. So let me switch. I'm going to switch gears on it, and really, really quick, right? So This is a
There's
play.
one line. I can't let this go. I'm sorry.
All right, go ahead.
There's one line.
I won't give a play. Just talk about
there,
Paul George the whole rest of the
well,
episode.
no, I'm sorry. I just didn't want. It's been 60 seconds, maybe going on 75. You remember the memes after the Last Dance? Why did I lose you on video? Where everyone was like, something happened, and they said, "I took it personally." Remember? Because there's something to be said about taking something personally. Like that should have been a game where Paul George took that game personally. And he's like, I have a mission. I have a point to prove here that I deserve to be the best player. I'm going to lead this team. We're going to get the dub with Kawhi out. And he didn't take it personally. Literally flopped. That was embarrassing.
Wow, it's crazy stuff. Listen, I never thought Paul George was that good. That's the thing. I mean,
did you think he was that bad?
I mean, just one game. I mean, they all just took the whole team basically took the day off. You know, they took the game off. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously not an alpha. He's obviously not a leader, and he doesn't care. You know, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. So
that was one of the most embarrassing performance I have ever seen, ever in my entire life.
All right, so you know who's not embarrassing? Not embarrassing at all.
Because I show up every single day and bring 100% on this podcast. I make mistakes. I'm not always right, but I always bring 100%, man.
Well, it's definitely true. I agree with that entirely. So, do you know 100 passing touchdowns and 15 rushing touchdowns? Prior to this year, the fastest quarterback to ever get to that 100 passing and 15 rushing touchdowns was Aaron Rodgers, and it took him 59 games. So now, a third-year player here, somebody who came in 2017, one of the greatest quarterbacks possibly to ever play the game.
Deshaun?
53 career games, 100 passing touchdowns, 15 rushing yards. Quickest to ever do it, right? So I was trying to lead you down. No, Lamar would have been 18. I was trying to lead you down to try to say Mahomes. Because it's 2017, greatest quarterback, but you already guessed who it is, right? So yes, my play today is Deshaun Watson. So 30 touchdowns this year, and became the Houston Texans all-time franchise leader already, by the way, which is just pretty sad. Passing, the record of 29 touchdown passes from Matt Schaub in 2009.
Matt Schaub.
But listen, right? So I know they lost, right? But he completed 24 or 33, 324, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a 133.9 rating, right?
Did you see his finger?
Yes, but they're saying he's going to play. They're saying he's going to play week 17, so it can't be that bad. He set a new single-season career high in passing yards, past Schaub, for the second most passing yards by a Texans quarterback in a season. 15 starts this year. You ready for these numbers? Watson is completing 70.1% of his passes, 4,458 yards, second in the league, 30 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and a 112.1 passer rating. He's also rushed for 432 yards on 87 carries for 3 additional rushing touchdowns. Pretty impressive stuff, right? That's pretty good numbers for a quarterback. He's improved year over year. Completion percentage this year is like 72%. I mean, I think his overall regular is 70.1%. Better than last year, better than his career average numbers. He's improved each year, and his team is terrible. I mean, just a terrible team. You expect being down that he'd throw more picks than 6 picks in 15 games. So here's the fun on it, right? He's not Mahomes. He didn't win an MVP, right? And he didn't win
You're gonna get me into trouble with our fans again. You're trying to get me some mean DM sent to me, huh?
Why?
I see what you're doing.
But here's the deal, right? So I like the card, but I don't want you to buy it today. Okay? I'm talking about his 2017 Prism rookie card, PSA 10. Right? It looks like a silver. They're all silvers. I saw a couple of them sell today in the 475, 480 range. Right, so it means off eBay you can probably get them a little cheaper than that. That's about where they were back in November and December. In earlier December, they kind of moved up to about 500. There will be a moment here as football ends and nobody's looking at football before football restarts, where you can get the card probably around $400, maybe even less if you look. Maybe you find somebody who's got a few of them, and they're it's February. the season ends and people are starting to buy their baseball cards, and you find somebody who wants to, get into Tatis and Soto and Acuna, and they want to sell some of their football stash, and Watson will be coming off of a 4-11/4-12, 5-11 year, and you'll be able to get the cards pretty cheap. They're trading at approximately 5%. That's 1/20th of what Mahomes is trading at. Now, I know Watson is not Mahomes, but he's a franchise quarterback. He's young. He's 24, 25 years old. He's young. He'll be around for quite some time. And he's not a guy who relies solely on his legs. He's got a cannon of an arm. He's an accurate passer. And he has played the game well, where he's not making stupid mistakes, even though his team is trailing, right? He's not throwing the ball into bad spots. 30 touchdowns against 6 interceptions, legitimate numbers. And in a year of the quarterback, where you have people talking about Mahomes, people talking about Rodgers, people talking about Russell Wilson, people talking about Josh Allen, the season that Deshaun Watson is having on a pretty crappy team is getting lost in the shuffle. And the Texans are a broken franchise. They just have never really been that good. I don't know if he's going to stay with the Texans forever. I have no idea what's going to wind up happening there. But chances are next season, the season after, his team, whichever team he's going to be on, is going to be better than 4-12. All right? He's going to be in, hopefully, in playoff contention. He's going to be playing for a competitive team. He's going to be playing meaningful games. And at that point in time, you're going to be happy that you bought this card for $400 or less, because it's not going to be that cheap. So at a time where we're talking about a $5,000 John Morant silver, this card for less than a tenth of that is you're talking about real bargain territory. So
I love it. I think Deshaun has so much potential. I wish he gets out of Houston. We're going to wrap with this, guys. If you follow crypto, and this is going to tie back to Cage's original comment on it: is the hobby in trouble? There's Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, and then there's Ripple. So if you look at those three assets, from our standpoint, they're exactly the same. But in reality, Bitcoin is, in my opinion, what the hobby as a whole is. Okay, it's a way to invest in the hobby as a whole. Then you have Ethereum. Okay, it's like, let's call it like you're investing in basketball. And then you have Ripple. Ripple is modern NBA in this scenario. Okay, and it has its peaks and valleys. Okay, it has its high highs and low lows. Okay, but if you look at it, it depends on how you look at the graph. So Ripple was 20 cents 4 or 5 months ago. It shot up to, I think it was 55 cents, maybe even touched 60. And then now it just dropped back to 25 cents, okay? Where Bitcoin has just been consistently on the rise. It hasn't jumped 100% overnight or in 3 days, but it has jumped 100% in 3 months. It has seen a big run up. That's how I would answer your question. Ripple is these modern basketball high risk investment plays. Okay, they're going to shoot up, they're going to come back down, and if you look at the graph in 3 weeks, it'll show you that Ripple is actually down 65%. But if you extend that graph and look over a year, it's up 5%. Okay, so Zion Silver, for example, remember how I said I think it's going to end the year at 3,000?
Yep.
Well, at some points this year, it was at 2,500. So it's actually it would increase even if it dropped down to that price, right? There's 5, 7, 10%. But Ripple also had that peak, like Zion has, where the $2,500 silver became 6,000, right?
Yes.
So it just depends on how you look at the numbers. It's how you look at the graph. What's your time frame? What's your perspective? That's how I would answer your question. But I think the hobby as a whole, Bitcoin, which I brought to you guys a little while ago, is in really good shape. It's in really good shape. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we trust the dollar a lot less. We know what's going on. We know they've been printing this money since 2008 when they released the first quantitative easing. We're not stupid. The market isn't stupid. We know that there's way more supply of the dollar. And we are looking, where can I put that money where it's not going to lose its value overnight? and we're starting to look at alternate asset classes. So, and the hobby is an alternate asset class, not modern MBA, the hobby.
So listen, guys, I have a favor for you guys, and it'll make my co-host here, who just had a birthday. Maybe it'll be a belated birthday present for him. It'll make him a little happier, right?
I have everything I need.
He's nervous, right? Because he doesn't understand. Maybe because he's never worked in an office for longer than a
What?
week. For longer than a week, this is a week for family. It's a week for your to take some downtime. It's a week for you to not have your normal routines, not have your commute to work. Maybe you've been taking the week off on the gym, right? So he's like, how do we make sure we start 2021 with the momentum that we need? Like he's laser focused on us, right? And I had a goal for this year, right? And it's just my own little goal. And it's on Instagram. I know there's a bunch of folks who listen to this. The amount of listeners is staggering now. And I thank each and every one of you. And happy holidays and enjoy the time with your family and happy new year. And I will tell you guys that again every episode now from now until the end of the year. But my goal for 2021 was for us on Instagram to reach 4,000 followers. It was a little goal I set myself. And we're currently at like 3930. We're like 65, 70 people shy of that, right? So here's what I'm going to ask of you guys, right? You're probably in a different routine. You might not be going to the gym. You might not be listening to this, immediately when you normally would have. But when you get around to this and you hear this, right? With what's going on, with Barstool being brought into this, with sports cards and Pokemon cards and our hobby being talked about on CNN, there are people out there who who you're going to sit down with this week, next week, family, friends, cousins, you name it, who are going to talk about this. They're going to know you're into the hobby, right? They're going to know. And now it's not you're that weird guy in the family sitting in the corner on eBay. Now it's your cousin who thought he was smart because he was investing in frozen concentrated orange juice futures. Now wants to talk to you about a pork belly, right? He wants to talk to you about the sports cards. He wants to talk to you about what you were in because now it's cool because now Gary Vee and Barstool are talking about it. So do me a favor, do Andrew a favor, do that cousin or that friend or that neighbor a favor, right? Tell them about our podcast. Right? Tell them about where you're getting your information from and the other podcasts and the other resources that are out there as well. But that would be a gift you can give to us. Let us expand our user base and expand the amount of people that we bring value to going into the new year. And, we would truly appreciate that. Obviously, it's already been happening. I know folks out there doing it. One of the greatest things I saw yesterday on Twitter, we really do need to do a better job in 2021 of expanding on Twitter. A lot of people have asked us to do that, but I saw, somebody posted, hey, I want to rotate a couple of sports card podcasts in. What do you guys have any ideas? And one of our listeners on Twitter wrote, hey, you guys got to listen to Lucas Tigers podcast. They've been helping me, navigate the hobby for the last couple of months. And the person replied, all right, I added them in. I'm subscribed to it now. That's great. I mean, we actually see that stuff. I actually watch that stuff. And, that to me provides, that first of all, provides a nice smile. I'm smiling now thinking about it. But that's why Andrew started this podcast. One mission. We had a mission statement. If we were, on this here as like our company webpage and whatnot, it was we want to provide value. We want to be valuable to the members of Luca Nation, to our hobby community. We want to give them value each and every day. And to see one of you guys out there saying, this is who you should listen to, that is, it's validating what we're doing here. And I can't even tell you how much we appreciate it. So, we promise every day to be here for you and give you some stuff. And, we thank you guys for being there for us as well. Got anything, Andrew? Does that make you feel better? We got some momentum. We got some real momentum going into 2021.
We do.
Right.
I don't want to let people down. I want to keep bringing them consistent content. I don't take it lightly, Cage. I don't.
I know.
I take it as a responsibility. I want to help people. I want to share what my experiences were. I was really fortunate this year, and a lot of it has to do with some of the principles that I learned in the past, patience and being one of them. And I just want to share that because it could change someone's life. Not everyone wants to travel in tropical Mexico, but some people, they want to take their family on a vacation. They want to buy a new car. They want to buy their mom a gift. Everyone has different goals and dreams. And I do believe that money creates freedom. Money won't change you, but it will showcase more of you, allow you to be more of yourself. And I want to help people do that. So it's not a responsibility I take lightly, Cage.
So I'm going to end it then with this, and I appreciate it, and I know our audience does too. Two little public service announcements. Number one, I went to the P.O. Box today for Luca Nation, and wow, were there a lot of submissions. Wow, guys, thanks for sending us cards. I'll be logging those all in. Obviously, we'll be taking cards over the next couple of weeks, so if you have some cards you want to send in for Luca Nation's, it'll be our January submission. Send them on in. We're taking cards now. If you have any questions on that, we have some information on it on our Instagram page, but feel free to DM us, send us a message, and we will, we'll answer any questions you have. We'll get you cards into our next sub. And also Star Stock. We're going to have an episode coming up this week where we go over, some recent trends on Star Stock, what we're seeing there, how I'm personally navigating the site, what I'm buying, what I'm selling. You guys can ride along with me if you like. If you have not signed up yet, we have a code for you. It's Luca Nation. Nice and easy. As long as you deposit $5, they will give you a $10 credit. It's free money, guys. Sign up for Star Stock. It is a really cool way of navigating. It's fun with daily basketball plays. I mean, you can really get in there, somebody you think is going to come off the bench and have a great game, almost like in fantasy, buy a bunch of their low-dollar cards, and by halftime, when they've scored 10 points in the first half out of nowhere, you can sell the cards for twice as much as what you paid for them before the game. It has happened. It's happening. And if you were one of the people who thought, somebody like Darius Garland or Colin Sexton were going to start off the season the way they've done in the first two games, you're doing really well for yourself. It's as easy as that. So again, Luca Nation is our code. If you put in at least $5 in Star Stock, they'll give you a $10 credit. Any final words to add there? All right, sir. Thank you for spending some time with us on another episode of the Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze Oh My podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe. You know what? Don't just like and subscribe. Everybody does that. If you like us, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everybody. And we hope you got something from spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.